Rise of the Ronin is bad. Now, I understand that it looks outdated, because that's true. It looks 20 years old at this point. But is it actually a bad game? Let's find out.
I sadly cannot recommend Rise of the Ronin, and I say sadly because I wanted this to be great. This game has everything I'm looking for in the title: a big open world in a really interesting setting, melee combat with ranged and stealth options, a lot of loot with pretty cool outfits and weapons you can find, but it's all part of a very incoherent package with a story and characters that do not make sense. Yes, there are insane difficulty spikes that become frustrating.
That sounds hilarious, though. That sounds hilarious. Oh my god. Is this a Bethesda game, maybe? Maybe this is a secret Bethesda game. Characters, dialogue, and power creep spikes that no one expects. Maybe.
And performance and fidelity is just not acceptable in 2024. It's kind of baffling that this a PlayStation.
This honestly looks worse than Bannerlord, which is kind of crazy. But yeah. Admittedly, you know, if the graphics aren't bad but the game's still fun, who cares? Look at Dragon Dogma 2, absolutely slaying it even though the performance is absolutely atrocious.
5 exclusive. Rise of the Ronin is at its best when it's just you and an opponent in a one-on-one duel. You can very easily learn the moves, predict what the enemy will do next, and counter accordingly. That's why I really enjoy the dojos you can find in the world where you can train with your companions. But this is just one of the activities in the open world. And the sad part is that after exploring the open world for like 2 hours, you will have experienced everything it has to offer. Not because it's small, it's actually quite sizable with new regions that unlock later in the main story, but it's full of the same icons. Photo challenges where you have to take a picture of something, cats that you have to...
Is this an Ubisoft game? Wait, no, who's making this? It kind of currently looks like a mix between the verse that Bethesda has to offer and the verse that Ubisoft has to offer. You know, it's like what you get when you, well, honestly, watch the 3-Body Problem, because that shit is atrocious. But you know, wow, okay, this is questionable.
Pet for rewards, there are shrines that just give you a skill point, and bandit camps that can have special wanted enemies as well that can sometimes give you new stances for weapons. There are luckily some side quests as well, but still, after doing these open world activities a few times, the enjoyment kinda wears off as the game does not try its best to make them feel different from the Lost. And what also does not help is that the loot gets...
Ooh, repetitiveness. Yeah, that is actually a problem in games like this. By the way, you know what a game has the template like this, but it's actually good? You're gonna probably be shocked, and you're maybe gonna even disagree. Elden Ring. Dark Souls, Dragon Souls, Dog Souls, you know, all the Souls games. Yeah, Elden Ring has this exact template of gameplay, yet it doesn't feel stale because it has an absolute plethora of different bosses and diversity of what you can do and what the more important enemies can do. So it never gets stale. But for something like this, to get stale is really, really easy. And look at this, you can see the loot. Yellow Lotus, Yellow Lotus. This is fine. Honestly, but you know, if there's nothing to do with these Yellow Lotuses and you get them often, they're boring. There can easily be a system where there's craftable pieces of loot that you find, but as long as you don't find them constantly every millisecond, they're interesting. Man, this looks like a poor attempt, honestly, on a Souls-like game, if this is how it goes.
It's less interesting the further you get into the game. Now there's a lot of it, and it's cool that you have both Japanese but also Western outfits. There are a ton of ways to dress your character, and the transmog system lets you always look the way you want while keeping the best stats. But after some time I noticed that the stats are basically meaningless, as even later on in the game they include very small percentage increases. So at one point I did not really care anymore and was just equipping the item with the highest attack or defense number, which makes finding new loot way less exciting. Also finding...
Oh, this is also bad. Man. What do you think is more interesting? A game that has melee attack, range attack, and magic attack, but there's only those three options, or a game that has, I don't know, for example, just one attack, let's say melee, and the only upgrade you can get for it in that game is plus 1% more damage constantly. I mean, both are horrible choices, right? But the one with three options is better. You know, the more options you give players, the better it is. Like yesterday, I talked about the Diablo 4 itemization problem. It was Diablo 4's itemization wasn't bad because, you know, a lot of items had the most stupidest affixes ever, like, you know, 5% more damage on Sundays. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that you couldn't always make it Sunday when you needed to. So yeah, this is a very common problem. Just plus damage is typically a way that a game dies. If your game is centered around the idea, here's a weapon upgrade and it's literally just a damage increase number, your game is gonna collapse. No games like that almost ever succeed. It is sad.
Finding new weapons loses its charm after you found every weapon type, which also happens early. Yes, they all play very different, which is nice, but after finding your favorite, there's really no reason to switch to a different weapon. They namely all have the same stances, so you can easily counter every enemy, meaning that you can just stick to your preferred playstyle for the full game and be successful. Although don't expect this game to be a walk in the park, it's kinda wild to see the developer Team Ninja includes many things to make this more accessible for people.
Yo, is this a reference? What's this called? I forgot. But okay, I think this is a reference. The guy with the axes, you know, who... dude, this is wild.
Are not into the Souls-like titles they usually make, like Nioh and Wolong, but completely throw that overboard by introducing some insane main story bosses that feel way more challenging than anything you've encountered before that point. Still, I want to applaud them for letting us save the game everywhere in the open world, for not punishing us as much for dying. You lose your karma currency, but can very easily get that back from the enemy that killed you. And even if you fail to do that, it won't be much of a loss, as you can very easily convert the karma to a skill point before any major combat encounter. The fact that you basically run around in a team of 3 during the main missions works great, so the enemies divide their attention. Also, if you fall, you will just switch to a different character. It can also easily revive your fallen party members. And even in the open world, where you are mostly solo, you can still find prisoners based on other people's character that will then help you complete the bandit camp. But all this effort goes to waste if the game still expects you to beat insanely difficult bosses in order to advance the main story. There's one fight relatively early on that requires you to parry like Sekiro before you stand a chance. Not to mention the duo bosses that you encounter later on. I don't want to show them for spoiler reasons, but imagine finally beating that challenging boss only to find out that you have to fight it again in the next mission, but then with another powerful boss at the same time. Now luckily there are 3 difficulty options: easy, normal and hard, and going from normal to easy makes the game very manageable. So you can always do that to get past an annoying encounter if you are stuck for an hour, but that should never be the solution, and it really brings me to my main critique with this game. It just overall really lacks a focus. It's multiple ideas smacked together without a clear vision, with everything bringing another element down. One of the best examples of this are the main missions, as these are completely separate from the open world and all take place in an instanced area. How it mostly goes...
Okay, this sounds kinda interesting, doesn't it? I like it. I mean, this has potential in the future. Rise of Ronin is the first game, right? So this has potential in the future in that case, because they can improve. Even if this is not amazing, it still kind of sounds like something that's worthwhile-ish, you know, at the very minimum. So you're probably going to get a little bit enjoyment out of it. And that's fine, I guess. Well, it depends on each person how they want. Do they want more enjoyment, less? Does this even sound like something that you care about? But in any case, hey, if this is just the first game, maybe they make a second and they learn from their mistakes. Because it does seem like there is a solid foundation here. It just seems like there is not enough in-depth foundation here to a certain degree. Or maybe I'm just alone in that. It depends. What do you
Is
think?
that you talk to an NPC, move on to the preparation screen, and then load into this small level. Now the environments for these missions are all varied, but that's sadly where the excitement stops, because it's always the same structure. Kill every enemy you see, including optional mini-bosses for an extra reward, and fight a big boss at the end. There is a variation where they say don't actually kill the enemies, so then you have to go unarmed and knock them out, but apart from that, it's all the same. And this does not only make the game very predictable, but it also really hurts the story. I of course don't want to share any story spoilers, but the weirdest things happen during these main missions. Like for one, they are dead set on having a...
What do you mean the weirdest things happen during these missions? I'm so confused at this point.
Big boss at the end for every main mission. Maybe it's for the co-op that I want to touch on in a second. I don't know.
Dude, first we had Hanzo, then we have Gonzo. I mean, what's next? Bonzo?
Oh, again, multiple ideas smacked together. Like, this really hurts the overall narrative, because again, they have to have a boss, so they will often pit you against allies in the strangest situations. So in one mission in chapter 1, you have to find someone to tell them their friend is captured. So after taking out random bandits in the area, you find this person, but instead of telling them the news, you first have to go and fight this character with lethal weapons, beat him.
Ah, yes, that is a classic. That is such a classic. Other games have done this too. Okay, we kind of need a boss fight here, so, yeah, how about he doesn't listen until you beat some sense into him? It's the most classic moves of the classic moves. Oh, we're allies. Well, prove to me with your fists. The biggest anime trope ever.
Like he should be dead after this fight, but instead you start a casual conversation about his captured friends, as if this brutal battle never happened. And stuff like this happens way too often. Even characters you choose as a companion in one mission are out of nowhere the final boss of the next main quest. Like, it's really hard for me to care about any of these allies or the story in general if you know that at any moment you might fight the character you were just having fun with for no reason.
Wait, yeah, this is this companion. Huh. That is crazy.
And then in the next conversation or cutscene, they won't even mention it. So I really, at one point, just could not find a good reason to play anymore. You also, midway through the game, get access to all the important skills, so all the unlocks that are left are just percentage increases. So just like with the loot, there's nothing exciting to look forward to in terms of progression.
Man, a good game should never have any percentile increases in talent points. Now, if you want a separate thing that is percentile increases, go for it. But man, if you add talent points to a game, I think they should feel unique. They should feel more special than 5% blunt damage or whatever type of garbage like that. Who honestly likes it? I think it's boring and dull. Now sure, putting that talent point in 5% damage does feel kind of good because you earned it, right? But, I mean, make it a separate, like, passive skill tree or something like that if you want to do it.
So then if the story also, thanks to poorly written dialogue, uninteresting characters, and overall lack of big set piece moments, does not grab you, then what else is here? Because the graphics and the world will also not keep you around. Sure, it's cool that NPCs will run and protect themselves when it's raining. Some areas, thanks to the Japanese aesthetic, look pretty awesome, but that is really everything positive I can say about the game's visuals. It's pretty wild with a game.
I mean, it's classic imperialist traditional Japan. It's some of it's gonna be pretty, I guess. That's nothing special, honestly. But the game makes a location look good. I'm never too amazed in that in most cases because yeah, that's kind of how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Game looking this bad in 2024, I also had performance issues where the frame rate would take a big hit. Now it is worth noting that I mostly played without the day 1 patch, and I tried to go back to some areas where I had the issues after installing this new update, and it does seem to run and look a bit better, so that is great, but I of course could not go back to all the parts where I had issues, so I still wanted to note that. And how they kinda improved the game with this update is by removing even more people from the already very empty streets. Shadows pop in and out. After I got a faster horse, I especially noticed that the draw distance is really bad with NPCs appearing right in front of your eyes. Again, it only...
Oh yeah, you can see everything just popping in suddenly. This is kind of crazy. Well, I also wanted to say at the start, but at the very start, somewhere around here, there was some kind of extreme popping. I didn't mention it, but man, those poppins are kind of really noticeable, huh?
It looks like a very old school title, and they could not even get it to run properly on PlayStation 5. Now the load times are super fast, which is great, just like the DualSense features are nice, but you expect more polish from a Sony published product, not to mention the very old...
This is Sony? Oh, well then it makes sense why it's bad. It's not a missile that's targeting a hospital. So, you know, yeah, that makes sense. Sony is usually good on not a lot of things.
Cool open world glitches that I encountered, where my horse would spawn in the water, so could not reach me. The AI will get stuck.
Well, it's a water horse. Have you not heard of them? They're real.
Stuck often, or does not see you when you are fighting one of their friends very
that's kind of funny.
close to them. It just all does not work great. Now the co-op is kind of fun. You can pretty easily invite a friend or two and then select one of the main missions that you want to play together. No issues while playing.
Ew.
It can still be challenging doing this together, and after a mission you remain in the lobby, and the load times are once again very quick, so you're in and out. But it's still far from perfect. You can namely only play a new mission in co-op if the other person is also at that point in the story or has already completed it. But because you have...
Well, I mean, honestly, what's the point of co-op like that? When I hear the word co-op, I'm not exactly thinking, oh, I'm gonna do a main mission with my friend here that I have already done or he has already done. That's not what I'm thinking at all, honestly, pretty much ever. I'm thinking about actually doing something. PvPing, doing some kind of external thing or something like that. Not just doing a storyline mission. That sounds so boring.
To do a lot of solo things in the open world first to get to a new main mission. It's super annoying to play the full game together. So co-op is mostly replaying.
Also, you know, I don't mean to be that guy, but where are all the black samurai or whatever? The samurai heart! No, samurai sword is black! Or whatever I heard Twitter said was true. So where are all the black samurai Ronin or whatever? How dare you, Sony? This game is racist, you know? Very racist.
Old missions you've both already completed. And again, these missions are basically all the same. Kill the enemies and then the boss at the end, which takes like 15 minutes max, so it can get repetitive quite fast. And also the rewards aren't that enticing to keep going either. Like, it would have been way cooler if you could actually explore the open world together, but that's not possible. Again, this game has so many systems and ideas, but they just don't work together. You can form a bond with almost every character you meet, which can give you some nice rewards, but there are just too many of these characters, and
okay, the Knot of Destiny sounds hilarious, I'm not gonna lie.
leveling the bond does not go that fast. So I'm not really enticed to chase this. I also got to try that wanted system I told you about in the preview, and it's sadly not that exciting because random peacekeepers will just spawn. They will increase in level over time until you cannot kill them and die. And these enemies don't even look that cool either. Everything combined just makes this a game that I said...
I mean, it's set in the feudal Japan era. I mean, yeah, they're not gonna kind of look that cool, I guess. They're gonna look basic. Nothing here is honestly supposed to look like cool and amazing and stand out, I think.
cannot recommend to you. It really sucks to say because on paper it had a ton of potential.
But you do want something that stands out and looks cool though.
But it would have been way better if they focused on half of what they offer now and made sure that those things
he just
at least
headbutted
hit. But
you.
no, now we get a package without any substance, without anything that makes me say, whoa, you need to see this for yourself. This would have been the perfect game to hold us over till Assassin's Creed Red or Ghost of Tsushima 2, but you can better save your money for those titles or buy Dragon's Dogma 2, because that game does do a lot of interesting things. A review for that game in the pinned comments. Got any...
Anyway, that was Joy Raptor. Good stuff. Joy Raptor, I mean, not Joy Raptor. I mean, Joy Raptors does sound better. In any case, this was Quizzer saying thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.